In today's lecture, we will talk about one of the very important topics of networking that's called as the IP addressing. IP address is the unique address which is assigned to any PC or any device that has to be there on the internet. So you can refer to this as the unique address which will be used for sending or receiving the data over the internet. So what is an IP address? IP address is the unique address that will help you in sending and receiving the data. It is like the address that you have for your home, which is used for receiving the parcel, which is used for receiving the letters and everything. Same way, it is like the address of the PC. So, the IP address that we are talking about is of two types. It's called as IPv4 and IPv6. IPv4 is of 32 bits of length and IPv6 is 64 bits in length. These 32 bits in IPv4 are divided into 4 octets. By octet, I mean that every octet will have 8 bits in it. So at the max, 8 bits will be there in each octet. So all these IP addresses which are there in IPv4, they are divided into certain classes. How many classes are there in IPv4? We have got class A, B, C, D, and E. These are the different classes which are available to us for sending the data. Now, moving forward, let's see what is the difference in these different classes. When you talk about these different classes, class A, B, C, D, and E, they have different ranges and they have different IP addresses associated with it. But firstly, you need to understand every IP address which is there, it will have two parts. First part is called as the network ID and the second part is called as the host ID. Network ID is used to uniquely identify the network in which a computer or device is, and host ID is used to represent the IP of PC. It is a unique identification of the PC. There can be, it means to understand it, let's understand a network may consist of multiple PCs. So it means all the PCs which are there in any network A, they will have the same network ID. However, each and every device which is there in that same network will have the different host ID associated with it. So in a single network, the network ID may be same for multiple PCs, but no two PCs can have the same host ID because it has to be unique. If somehow two PCs in the same network have the same IP address, then there will be an issue that has to be resolved, right? So whenever you talk about the different classes A, B, C, and D, I told you that every IP will have two parts, network and host. Now, how is this segregation done? Every IP address that we have in IPv4 will have firstly 4 octets, whether it is A, B, C, or D. Every IP address class will have 4 octets. So, what is the difference? The difference is in dividing these bits for network ID. So, when you talk about your class A, in class A, your first octet will be used for your network. In class B, first two octets will be used for representing the network ID, and in class C, first three octets will be used for representing the, in class C, first three octets will be used for representing the network. Now, how do you represent the host IDs in this? In your class A, rest of the bits or rest of the octets, you can say it will be used for representing the host ID. In your class B, last two octets will be used for representing your host IDs. In your class C, last octet will be used for representing the host. It means that all the devices which are there in a network will have the same network ID. However, different host ID. Furthermore, let's understand what are the valid IP address ranges for each and every class, and how do you identify whether any IP which is given to you is valid IP address or not. Now let's see that whether these given IPs are valid IP addresses or not. To understand whether any IP address is valid IP address or not, we need to understand that as we are talking about octet and we are talking about one octet having 8 bits available to us. So the maximum number of decimal value which can be represented with this octet is 255. No octet can have the value more than 255, because if I put all the values as 1, 8 ones, then this will give me the decimal output as 255. So let's see whether these IP addresses which are given to us are valid or not. Let's have a look at the first question. It is 10.10.10.256. Now, out of all these octets, there is one value that is in the last octet, 256. It's not the valid value, because there cannot be any octet which can have value more than 255, as there are only 8 bits available to us. So this is not an valid IP address. Now let's see the next one. As it is told you that every IPv4 address can have only 4 octets. If you look at this example very carefully, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 octets. So it is not a valid IP address. One more thing that you need to see here is, and which is very important for you to understand is, that whenever you are talking about any IP address, no IP address can have a leading zero in any of the octets. If the IP address is, let's say, if the IP address is 1.6.7.255, if you want to write down 1 in any of the octets, or if you want to write down any single valued value, then you cannot write it like 0, 1. No, it has to be written as only 1. So there cannot be leading 0 in any of the IP addresses. So this is also not an IP which is valid one. Now let's go forward. Whenever you have the IP address either can be represented in the binary form or it can be represented in the decimal form. By binary, I hope you understand we are talking about representing the IP address in the form of ones and zeros. And by decimal, when you are representing the IPs in this way, 1 to 255, or maybe some other value, but there cannot be any IP address which is mixture of both. Here the second octet is representing some values in the form of binary, which is not allowed. So we cannot have any IP addresses which have these issues associated with it. So what are the possible type of values can be there? Let's see some examples for that. So let's see whether these IPs are valid IP addresses or not. If you have a look at the first one, it has got 4 octets. There is no value which is more than that of 255. So yes, this is a valid IP address. Second one, each and every octet contains the values less than 255. So this is a valid IP address. There is no leading zero anywhere. So yes, it is a valid IP address in the third one also. So what are the necessary conditions that you need to check before you declare whether any IP address is valid or not? First condition is that no octet can have value more than 255. Second, maximum of 4 octets. You cannot call it as maximum. You will say only, only 4 octets are allowed in IPv4. Third, no leading zero can be there in the data, in the IP address. Last one, no combination of binary and decimal for representing any IP address. Now, if you want to see that how does your IP address in the system look like, let's go to the command prompt in your system and see how does the IP address for your system look like. For that, you need to go to the command prompt in your system. Here you will see that I'm there on the command prompt. Now, in the command prompt, the command that you are supposed to type is ipconfig. This ipconfig stands for IP configuration. This will show you the IP address assigned to my system. Here you will see my system is showing the wireless LAN adapter Wi-Fi IPv6 address. Some values are there, and then IPv4 address is there, which is divided into 4 octets. It has got some subnet mask. What is the subnet mask? That we will talk about later on. Then there is a default gateway associated with my system. So every PC which is over the internet, which is accessing internet, will have some IP address associated with it.